I have a notepad in the shower. You can buy it on Amazon. I think it's called like no more ideas down the drain, maybe. But if you literally just put in shower notepad on Amazon, it'll come up. There is a notepad in the shower because I'm finally alone. Creative juices are flowing. I'm always getting ideas. I can't tell you how many times some new offer concept, some new experience has like been completely fleshed out in the shower, and I'm writing it on that notepad.
Welcome to the Mom Founder Imagination Hub, your weekly podcast to inspire you to dream bigger. Plan out how you're going to get to that next level in business, find the energy to keep going, and make sure your creative juices are flowing so that this way you get what you really want rather than having to settle. Get ready to discover how mom founders have reimagined entrepreneurship and motherhood. Ever wonder how they do it? Tune in to find out and stretch yourself by also learning from diverse entrepreneurs who might not be moms, but who have lessons you can tailor about how you can disrupt industries and step way outside of your comfort zone. I believe every mom's superpower is her imagination. In this podcast, I'm going to give you the mindset, methods, and tools to unleash yours. Sounds good? Then keep listening. Welcome to the Mom Founder Imagination Hub. I'm your host, Melissa Lorena. So today's guest is going to be Leah Remillet. So let me share a little bit about who she is and how she will help you actually create very simple systems so that you get out the door to the gym, so that you can come up with your next pivot for 2025, or you could even decide whether or not to take a sabbatical for the entire holiday season. This is definitely a keeper. So in this episode, Leah and I really got down to the nuances of having a business where, you might have to pivot for survival, but you can still benefit from the use of systems so that you can have this feeling of balance. So we spoke in details pertaining to that feeling and what it feels like to actually be super productive and not have to stay up 24 hours a day. Unless you're a newborn mom, then that is part of the reality. At least it was for me. Okay, so let me give you a little bit of the background for Leah. So she is the host of the Balancing Busy podcast, an international speaker, and the Balance Strategist. She is amazing. All of the links can be in the show notes, or it could be in the description if you're watching this on YouTube. What I want you to really just capture in this episode is this idea that a business is so dynamic. It is not something that is static. And I would say that systems, at least for me, one concern would be that, okay, I have this nicely laid out plan that is immovable, is totally static. It's not dynamic. It doesn't change along with my needs and preferences and what I offer in my business. And so Leah basically debunks that myth that I had pertaining to systems. She also offers anyone that is listening the opportunity to visually see what these mini systems or mid-sized systems look like. So you'll see, again, the links in the show notes so that you can grab a visual representation of what a system might look like and how it might help you in your business and your day-to-day life. Now, I want to share this. I'm so excited about this. It's out of control how excited. So this episode is brought to you by Fertile Imagination, my book. And it is something that I'm so excited about because the intention behind writing my book, Fertile Imagination, a guide for stretching every mom's superpower for maximum impact, my intention was that a mom or a working woman or a stay-at-home mom read the book and see herself in one of the stories that I share. I am super vulnerable in this book. I share all the rejections I've gotten, maybe not all of them, a slither of them. I share my insecurities pertaining to whether or not I'm a really great mom or how I can be a better mom or a version of a mom that I would aspire to become. I even share, all of the ups and downs in terms of having a business and relocating an entire family from Australia to the United States and back. So I wanted to just share that with you because this holiday season, it would be amazing if you purchase the book using the link in the show notes. Just go to bit.ly/fertile book. Purchase a book for yourself or for a mom friend or for both. Take take a picture of the book under a Christmas tree or next to Hanukkah candles or however you celebrate the holiday seasons. Take a picture of the book, send it over to me. I will put my email address in the show notes as well. And I would love to feature it on my social media channel. So if you do this, this is going to make me feel totally jazzed, totally excited, because what I know to be true is the following. Every single person who has read a single chapter, and there's about, I don't know if it was 25 or so chapters in my book, but every single chapter, it's like a dose of inspiration. It's a dose of Rocky for moms sort of moments. It's a dose of, you may have never considered this before, but it's available to you too, my beautiful dear reader. It is something that has inspired so many people, and I want to really spread the joy around the world. Again, Fertile Imagination, a guide for stretching every mom's superpower for maximum impact. The link is right here in the show notes. It's bit.ly Fertile Book. I appreciate you. Enjoy the conversation. Take notes. And most importantly, take action on Leah's ideas, because I know that you want to feel like you have balance. And it is a feeling that you can capture. Leah really does a great job of describing that feeling and what it might look like in your life. Thank you so, so much. Purchase the book, take a picture, send it to me via email. It's going to be melissa@melissalarena.com. And that is going to be in the show notes wherever you're listening to this actual episode. Thank you so much again. Leah, I am thrilled to have you on the Mom Founder Imagination Hub. How are you today?
I am excellent and happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
You are so welcome. I am so excited to have a conversation with someone that's like a OG in the online, her own business is a mom space. I feel like I am OG'd out right now. And I feel like you having come back from your 100 days of sabbatical are like what I need right now. And listeners who have been at it for some time. So there's an intro for you. I need to know everything. I mean, like, what was it like to just, be in the ocean watching, is it your son, like surfing the waves and stuff, and like not having to be out and about online? Like, what was that like? Help us all feel that freedom.
You got it. Okay, so I'm Leah Remillet, and I am a business and success strategist. And where I love to focus is helping women entrepreneurs do less with better results. So that's what that's what it gets down to of what I do. And I've been in business for 16 years. So that is raising babies and a business simultaneously for a long, long time. My kids were not even in elementary school yet. They were like 4, 3, and newborn when I started a business. And I have worked hard. I've gone through all kinds of phases, times where I was our sole provider for several years, times where I was part, half and half provider. I mean, I've experienced it all, and I have never let myself take an extended break. I mean, I've gone on vacation, like, don't get me wrong. Like, I've gone on vacation for, 10 days or something like that. But even that, it's just a little bit hard to be fully unplugged. And I feel like I'm actually pretty decent at that. I unplug on the weekends entirely. I absolutely have fully unplugged, on a vacation, but nothing like this. So I started playing with this idea at the beginning of the summer of like, what if I just took the whole summer off? I was having a really hard time convincing myself that that was acceptable. All of the fears were coming in, right? Like ideas like, I'm going to lose all my momentum. I'm going to lose my rankings. I'm going to lose, just all of the things. I have my own podcast, Balancing Busy podcast, that you're going to be on. And, there's all these fears, right? And so I kept just mulling the idea around without actually committing. And then one day I've been thinking about it for weeks now, and I'm thinking about it. I'm sitting down and I just thought, well, if I email my podcast producer, then it's just done. And so it actually stayed as a draft for a few days. The original draft sounded something like, maybe, sorta, I'm thinking we could possibly. And then by the time I finally sent it, it was, this is what we're doing. We are doing this. And so I sent the email, and the second that I sent it, I felt giddy. Like I was like so excited, right? And I started out giving myself like, oh, I mean, maybe I'll do it all summer, but maybe I'll just do it 2 months. Maybe it'll just be 1 month. I can decide. I can figure it out. Turns out I loved the break and I fully embraced it for over 100 days where, I mean, there was a couple things I had to do. I would say I maybe worked maybe 2 hours a week, some weeks never at all, but maybe about that. But yeah, I was checked out and it was incredible. I happened to so two things big that were happening during our life over this summer is number one, our middle was heading off to college. So I got to spend all this time with her and just like soak up every moment I could, be so intentional as we, just enjoyed the summer together and then prepared to send her off to university. And then our youngest, who's 16 years old, he is in the world of competitive wake surfing. So this is actually not surfing on an ocean. It's actually surfing behind a boat, which is different. And he started competing this last year and he made it to the World Championships, which were in Geneva. And so we just got back from there a couple weeks ago. And so I took the entire summer off, really up until getting back from Switzerland and then got back to work. And it's been incredible. The break was incredible and I can kind of share about that, but also coming back. I am so inspired, excited. I like that fire is back, which feels so amazing.
Oh my gosh. So everyone tells me this, but I'm so hesitant. They're just like, Melissa, you have to step away in order to like find it back, right? To get that mojo back. And I'm like, no, got to be hardcore, keep going. So I saw this post, which was like totally like, oh my goodness, is this serious right now? This person said, and I don't know if it's true, she has a podcast and she's like, oh yeah, I paused my podcast for a year and I retained my status or whatever in listen notes. And I thought to myself, what? I know, right? We got to be mindful of what we read online. But I just thought to myself, I was like, okay, so here I am trying to figure out what to say every single week. And here's someone who was like totally dead to the world for a year and like retained her spot. Okay, so whether that's true or not, that's for another day. So then here's the question. Okay, so there you are. You're in Geneva, which I love. I have such stories about Lake Genève. You're in Geneva. Maybe you're having that fondue and all that good stuff. And,
oh, yes.
and you're enjoying life. You're enjoying life. And also like this very specific stage in terms of like your family, your two kids, right? So let me ask you this question. It just popped up earlier. So I think about growth spurts, right? In our kids. And then I think about the same growth spurts maybe in our businesses, right? I just wonder, like for you, did you ever notice that there was a particular stage maybe when your kids were doing like super well and your business was doing really well? And like what mind space were you in? Because I want that.
Absolutely. Okay. So first thing I'll say is just to answer that, that listen notes thought.
Yeah.
I'll say so I'll just put that out there. 3 months of no podcast episodes at all. I did see mine drop barely, but I think it's going to come up really fast. I got, how many downloads? I was like back there and above, probably because everybody wants to know the story and all those things. So there's a little just a little glimpse on that. I think of times in my business where it's been especially great. It's always been around when I have been very, very intentional with trying to have both things feel great. And I'm using that word feel because that's really what balance is it's a feeling, right? Like we feel like everything is alignment, everything feels good, everything is some forward motion. And I think about the first couple years didn't feel so good. I'm feeling like I was in that hustle harder mentality where you just keep trying to figure out what else you can give up to work harder in your business. And I'm also the primary caregiver for our 3 kids who are all super young while my husband's in graduate school, right? And I mean, it didn't feel good. And then I really decided to make some changes. I knew I couldn't sustain what I was doing. I knew I had to find a better way. And I got really determined. And I was making great money. Like I had hit the 6-figure mark at that point in those first couple years, but it was like, at what expense? And so I made this decision that I was either going to find a better way or I would walk away from my business, which was scary because I'm the one who paid the mortgage. So it was
Yeah.
like, well, I really hope I can figure this out. And I did. And as I figured that out, I really had this explosion of just growth in all areas. My business continued to grow and make more money, even though my hours were going down.
Mhm.
Things felt great with my kids. I volunteered in each of their classrooms every single week. Like all the things were there and it just felt so good. And the truth is that life is this ever flowing thing, right? So things go great and then something shows up unexpected and things get a little bit harder for a while. And then you work to bring things to great. And there's this ebb and flow that happens. But if I had to get down to when things have been at their best, what is the common denominator? I guess I would say it's two things. One, being very intentional with my time, intentional with my energy, and intentional in my most important relationships. And I'll even put my business in there as one of my relationships, we could say, right? Like very intentional with my time with my kids, with my time with my husband, making sure that we have weekly date night and that we get away once a quarter for a night away and that we get away once a week for just us a year. And then making sure that, we're having lots of great family quality time, one-on-one time with my kids. And in addition, time for my business. Now, that might sound like how in the crud do you fit all that in? And that comes down to systems. I am very obsessed with systems. I am constantly looking for how could I automate this? How could I batch this? How could I implement a simple system for this so that I don't have to keep redoing it myself over and over? So those would be some of the things that I did. And then the other thing that I would say is keeping a very strong practice of gratitude, just looking for the good everywhere, writing it down, focusing on it. But that combination every time is when I'm doing my absolute best.
Yeah, I would say, the thing that really popped up for me was this idea. So I start out as an example with a system and then I want to pivot. And so I'm just like, really, kind of not as enthused, right? Because you work very hard up front to set up these systems. And the assumption is that the intention for your business, well, I don't know. For me, it started out with this one thing. This was in 2011. My whole thing was this. Okay, I just had a baby. I started my business with my firstborn on my chest. He did a diaper blowout on my first client, basically. And then I've had two more kids since. But I started out my business because I was like, you know what? I want to keep my tiptoe. That was the idea, tiptoe in the world of commerce. So I was a coach to marketing executives. But then I had one set of systems for that target audience, right? And then, okay, it's been a long time, but I wrote a book, Fertile Imagination. And when I wrote the book, my intention was to pivot, talk to moms that are working moms and have their own businesses. And so now the old systems, sure, I could copy and paste, edit and update, but because of the cluttered market, the competition right now, I don't have much confidence in systems. So how can you help someone like me and listeners, right? There's a lot of people that they're like, man, it takes a lot of effort to put together a system, So how do I know that it's going to be worthwhile if I myself tend to change my mind or decide that I want to pivot because the market is not, favorable for whatever reason?
Absolutely. I love this question. Pivoting is a natural part of business, and it's imperative if we're going to stay successful and if we're not going to fade into the oblivion, right?
Yeah.
So pivoting is going to be part of our businesses. Plus, we learn more, we grow more, our passions change. And so it's a natural course that there's a good chance that we are going to eventually pivot into something completely different. I have pivoted multiple times, right? So my very first business was a photography business. I love to joke that I feel like it's the gateway business for like stay-at-home moms. And then I got into course creation. I built that business very fast. I just inherently get the business side of things. And so I was like, I need to teach other photographers how to build a six-figure photography business like I have. And so I created this course that was back in 2010. I did that for years. I taught mastermind retreats. I spoke at tons of conventions and conferences. Then in about 2015, I wanted to do this major pivot where I realized I actually want to help all kinds of entrepreneurial women because at this point I've had a brick and mortar, I've had, or a location-based business, I've had an online business, I've taught and spoke and had events and retreats and right, like I've done so many different things. I've gotten each one of those to be wildly successful, and I want to show all kinds of entrepreneurial women, especially my heart is to moms, and show them how to do less but better and get those results, right? So then it shifts again. I have this major shift. And then after my sabbatical, I don't know that it's really a shift. It's still helping those women. But what I'm super passionate about right now is building a business without social media.
Mhm.
So implementing everything for your reach and your visibility and being able to do it without having to count on the very, very inconsistent, unreliable social media. And so
Mhm.
that's what I'm super excited about. So each time there's pivots, there's going to be adjustments. So let's talk about, in my mind, first, what I believe a system is. It
Mhm.
is just a simple set of steps that allows you to duplicate the same results or the very best results over and over and over. That's all a system is. So one of my simplest systems is that I work out every morning. I don't particularly love exercise. I don't know that I'll ever learn to love exercise, but I do it because I'm supposed to, right? And so I have a simple system in place, which is that every night before bed, I make sure that my water bottle's filled, that all my workout clothes are out, including the rubber band on the very top, because if I can't find a rubber band, I can convince myself I can't do the workout that day. And they're all just sitting there, right? Like the
Mhm.
simplest little system, but it allows me to be successful. Now, in our businesses, we're just constantly looking for, where is there something that I have to do all the time, that I'm duplicating all the time? And is there a set of steps I can put in to, number one, create a better experience for my customers and myself and my team? And number two, to simplify it for myself. So I don't have to sit there and think through what am I going to do next, right? And so having those systems and just implementing them and putting them in place has saved me, because it saves tons and tons of hours. And I'm all about making it as simple as possible to create those systems. So a lot of times I just set up my systems in real time as I'm doing a task. Maybe I open up Loom and I literally am just recording myself doing it to make it really, really easy. Or maybe I'm writing an email and I'm like, gosh, that was a really good one. And I have to send this kind of email all the time. So I open up my auto signatures and I save it as an auto signature. So now the next time I have to write that email, I can just drop in the auto signature, adjust it a little bit to be for somebody else, and then go on. Then, of course, there's bigger systems too, like a sales funnel or a customer experience funnel or referral funnel, right? So there are the bigger ones for sure, but even just starting wherever we can to get those little wins, to get a little bit of time back, that's huge. And then I'll say this, for anyone who's visual like me and you're like, if I could just see this, that would really, really help.
Mhm.
They can get a little sneak peek into a couple of my systems and see the behind the scenes. And all they have to do is go to gift.balancingbusy.com, and they can access a few of my systems and just literally see some of the more medium-sized ones. I shared some really tiny ones, but some more medium-sized ones to really see what it looks like.
I love that. And I think, it's so funny because you say the word system, and then I think to myself, how can we systematize expansive thinking or the use of our imagination? So let's go there to kind of like, take the conversation to the place where I guess it's like Willy Wonka style, right? So thinking creatively, divergent thinking, coming up with fresh ideas, now having come from your 100-day sabbatical, like, how have you maybe systematized the act of coming up with, great ideas or that creative flow in your business as, a business owner, as a mom?
So this is going to be, again, one of those very simple systems, but I have it scheduled in every single week, growth time.
Mm.
Growth time is my time to brainstorm or to watch that training that I've been really curious about, or to study some email sequence that I saw somebody do that I thought was really good. Whatever I want to do, that time is there and available to me to just really use my creativity. So that is one very simple way that I actually make sure, because one of the problems is when we don't have enough clients, we probably are doing a lot of learning. We're doing a lot of research and studying. So our creative juices are really flowing because we're seeing ideas. It's sparking new ideas. But then when someone gets busy, you don't have time to do all that research, to do all that looking, right? Like those things go away. And then we're surprised that our creativity seems to feel stifled. The the easiest way to fix this is to just schedule in a reoccurring date with yourself that is time to get to learn, grow, be creative, brainstorm, try new things, adjust things, whatever you want to do with that time. So that would be the first thing that I would suggest. The second thing I would suggest is having a place or multiple places where when an idea does come, it's easy to get it jotted down. So two very funny, odd places that I document my creativity is I have a notepad in the shower. You can buy it on Amazon. I think it's called like no more ideas down the drain, maybe. But if you literally just put in shower notepad on Amazon, it'll come up. There is a notepad in the shower because I'm finally alone. Creative juices are flowing. I'm always getting ideas. I can't tell you how many times some new offer concept, some new experience has like been completely flushed out in the shower and I'm writing it on that notepad. The other time that I have a tendency to feel more creative is when I'm driving. Why? Because again, I'm not distracted. I'm locked in my car. I like silence. So a lot of times I'm just sitting with my thoughts and I'll start getting some ideas. So I turn on voice memo and I just start recording an entire voice memo of all the thoughts I'm thinking. And then I text it to myself so that I then review all of those ideas in that scheduled time that I have allotted every single week. So there's some really simple systems to put in place to help make sure that creativity, that there's time for it.
So I love this because first of all, like in the shower, waterproof, like I'm just like, okay, yeah, that's a purchase.
It's seriously epic. I love it.
Like who thought of that, right? Like, and it was probably thought of in a shower, but I digress. So that's amazing. So, okay. So just to kind of close the conversation. So here you are after those 100 days, you have this idea in terms of supporting, um, you know, entrepreneurs, growing their business without social media, right? So like, what is the system that you have in place now to get this idea that is inspiring to you out into the world? Like, do you have a system for that? Like, okay, idea to reality?
I actually do. Absolutely. And so yeah, I'll share with you kind of what this is looking like. So I really started fleshing out and brainstorming, looking at all my analytics, looking at all my revenue streams, all these different things and being like, where do the clients come from? Where is it all really coming from? And the honest truth is it's not social media. It never has been. I mean, yes, don't get me wrong. I have absolutely gotten sales off social media, of course, right? But I love tracking things. And when I really look at everything, I know where the bulk of our email traffic or not email, website traffic comes from. And it's never even remotely social media, never. And I know where my big clients have come from. And right. So I really started looking at all this and then fleshing out and building out, well, how could I help another business owner do all of these things? And a lot of it I've already have in the past, but like, how could I make it very actionable, easy to implement and not overwhelming. And so I'm fleshing it all out. But then I came to a realization. Here's the truth. One of the biggest things that I'm a believer in is Pinterest as a marketing strategy. I look at Pinterest as a search engine, not a social media platform. And it is where 97% of my traffic has been coming from directly to my website for years. I mean, I think we're on a solid 8 years. And so it's like, oh my gosh, like I kept spending more time on Reels, if I'm being totally honest, because that's where everybody says we should be instead of doubling down on this thing that has clearly worked for so long. So I obviously in my own business am doubling down. I have my systems in place for making sure that we're really prioritizing our Pinterest. And then I also want to figure out how to teach it to others. But I came to this realization. I've had Pinterest in place in my business for I don't know how long, but it is definitely over 8 years. I'm a little rusty, right? I haven't set up Pinterest in a very, very long time. I mean, it's all automated and pretty, it just flows now. So I thought, okay, I want to help business owners do this where I literally get my hands dirty and I'm going to implement it all for them, which is not something I would normally offer because that's very, very time consuming. But in order to build the DIY version where I can walk entrepreneurs through, here is exactly how to do it. I wanted to make sure that I was in it and I knew all the most recent information. So I decided, okay, this is going to be the system. The system is I will take a maximum of 3 entrepreneurs who I will implement it all for them. We're going to build it out together. I'm going to figure out, their business plan and strategy, their ideal customer, all the things. I'm going to help write out all the copy and I'm going to implement it into their businesses while simultaneously building out all the processes so that I can build this more affordable version where people can just do it themselves. And so that is the system that I created for myself. So now it was really amazing. We filled the spots in 48 hours. And so I have the clients that I'm working with where I am helping them implement everything into their businesses, simultaneously documenting, getting it all set up to be able to show someone, and then that'll become the membership. So that's the system that I created for being able to actually make this big pivot, or at least the original one. There's going to be a lot more systems that I start placing in between and throughout everything, but that's kind of the big one of how I'm taking this big idea and actually making it manageable. And that was a reason why I was very, very careful to say, I'm not going to take more than 3. And actually I decided to stop at 2 because I got the 2 in the first 48 hours. And I was like, okay, I can get that third, or I can just say, I'm still very, everything I'm about is balancing our home life and our businesses. And I just thought, I know I can keep everything in balance if I have 2 customers, 2 of these mastermind clients, plus I'm building the system and everything else. I don't know for sure that I can do it if I have 3 plus. So I just said, okay, I'm capping it at 2. I'm excited. I'm going to work with these 2 businesses. I love what each of them stand for. Like, I cannot wait to help them grow. And then I'm going to build the program simultaneously. So that's kind of a real life version of me making these things happen right now.
I love that. And I think, anyone that's listening, I guess like there's so many lessons here, but one big lesson is that it's about making one decision and then just being comfortable and trusting yourself to then make the next decision. And it might be like the opposite from the first, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, I mean, we've been in this space for so long at this point that it's kind of like, I mean, I don't have whiplash yet, but I'm kind of on that at that point. But whatever idea you have right now, like, it's good enough as is right now to just start getting your feet wet, in the market. And then I think just the other idea is, systematizing creativity. I know for a lot of people that have MBAs like myself, and maybe some listeners, we're just like kind of out of it. But I love hearing it from your perspective, Leah, because it's more entrepreneurial. It's more like rolling up your sleeves and just like, okay, just document what you do. You know what I mean? You simplified it for us. And then the other idea is just the whole like stepping away, like, the world is not going to implode technically. So give it a go. If you've been at one business challenge for a long time, especially. So where can listeners learn more about you and your systems? I know you shared a little URL earlier, but where can we learn more about you and follow you?
Absolutely. Okay. So they're already on their podcast platform getting to listen to your amazing episode. So my suggestion would be to go search Balancing Busy and follow my podcast, and you'll hear more stories and examples and ideas all around time management, productivity, doing less but better, but in all areas. So yes, of course, in our businesses, but I also love focusing on the family life and all of those places too. And then of course, they can go to balancingbusy.com. And if they want to see my systems, they can go to gift.balancingbusy.com.
Thank you so much.